There has been talk about a Senate Ethics Committee review of Senator Al Franken, the Democrat, who called for it himself. Many senators, including Franken, saying that that's how they want this to be handled after last week he was accused of forcibly kissing a woman and appearing to grope her while she slept, based on that photo that was infamously spread around.
So would an ethics investigation even be worth it, or just a waste of taxpayer time and money?
Fox News anchor and attorney Greg Jarrett joins us now with more on this.
So Pete went through the stats yesterday, Greg, and you study these things closely as an attorney. The Ethics Committee has had dozens and dozens of investigations in the last decade, and no one got hit with anything. It may be a couple of slaps on the wrist, but nothing.
Bob Packwood was expelled from the U.S. Senate roughly 25 years ago, but that was related to sexual assault in the workplace while he was a U.S. Senator. Historically, the committee won't even take up a case if it involves misconduct before somebody became a U.S. Senator.
Which is this case.
Brock Adams was accused of sexual misconduct before he became a senator. Ethics Committee wouldn't even take it. But that was 25 years ago. And Ed, the environment has changed dramatically, especially in recent years with respect to sexual assault, sexual harassment. So I do think this committee is going to take up the case of Al Franken.
But isn't this beyond that photograph that we saw of Al Franken? Isn't this investigation also probably going to look into his senatorial office and see, are there patterns? Have there ever been any reports? We've been hearing about sexual harassment that has happened and been covered up through this secret fund that pays people to sort of make these problems go away. So is the investigation just about the photograph, or is it about looking into his Senate office to see if there's a pattern?
Well, the committee has broad latitude and discretion only with respect to matters in the U.S. Senate. There's a comparable committee in the House. And given the revelations of Jackie Speer, that there have been payoffs that have been kept secret over sexual harassment, the House needs to investigate as well. We're changing increasingly, and for the better, our attitudes toward this kind of misconduct. And I read over the weekend the Senate rules of conduct. They are a complete and utter joke. They're almost as if they were written in the 19th century.
Don't spit tobacco juice.
Yeah, they need to update this to specifically explain what the proper code of conduct is with respect to sexual harassment, sexual assault, and other relevant matters.
Greg, I've been beating this drum, but it's worth asking a legal expert. This so-called Senate Ethics Committee has a batting average of 0 over the last decade as far as bringing sanctions against senators. Do you have any belief that on the Franken case or anything like it, that they will actually step up and censure or sanction a senator who's done something?
If I had to make a guess, I would say it's either a public admonition or a censure as opposed to expulsion. But there's an outside chance there could be expulsion.
And how does this apply to Roy Moore? No one on this couch is going to defend his alleged behavior, but it's alleged. And to your point about Al Franken, his conduct happened on a USO tour when he was a comedian. Doesn't excuse it, but he was not a U.S. senator. Roy Moore, 30, 40 years ago, was obviously not. He's not even in the Senate today. So could the Senate, or would the Senate Ethics Committee be likely to look at what he did 30 or 40 years ago?
If Moore wins, I think it is a sure bet. You can place your money on it that the Ethics Committee will take up the case of Roy Moore. And I would urge Mitch McConnell to not seat Roy Moore until the completion of an Ethics Committee review, which means Luther Strange would continue to fill the vacancy. And let's see. I mean, if the committee says this man is not fit to sit in the U.S. Senate, and I happen to think that is the case, then he would never be seated based on the committee.
But that opens the door to ethics probes of every single senator from 30 years ago.
This is not to defend the allegations of Roy Moore, but why should 6 people in a distant capital be able to choose who's befitting the people of Alabama and not millions of voters who go to the ballot box, especially on something that didn't happen when he's in the Senate?
If it were otherwise, then the rules of the Senate wouldn't allow for the Senate not to seat an elected senator. And so it's within their latitude and discretion and authority to do so.
Has that ever happened before?
Not that I'm aware of, at least in the last century, but before that I haven't looked.
Greg, thanks for bringing those facts to the table.
Good stuff. Greg Jarrett, thanks a lot.
Fox News Alert, meanwhile, breaking overnight.